Okay. I've also muted everyone so that we don't hear any outside noise. If you have a question, you can type it on the. I think there's like a chat window. Um, can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. So I knew this was going to happen. I knew the final project was going to suffer because of studio project. Not suffer, but would be affected by it because it always does every year. Um, so if you look at the schedule, let me zoom in some more. What I think I'm going to do is, so today's the first. I'm going to move this to Thursday. And then on the 8th, you'll have this and this due. So we're just moving that back, and I'll update the brief online so Kaylee can't hear. Okay, I don't know. Okay. If you can hear, can you type in yes in the so what is, so this will be, so this is due on the 3rd, and then this is due on the 8th in addition to this. So 5/3 and 5/8 are due on 5/8, and 5/1 is due on 5/3. Okay, if you can hear me, can you say yes? Type yes in the chat window. I see that Rebecca and Isa have responded, and Diane. Okay, Jessica can hear. Diane can hear. And Kaylee cannot hear still. If you guys are with Kaylee or can text her, tell her that I'm recording this and I'll upload it later, so because she's the only one that's not able to listen to hear. Let her know that this will be online and she can hear it after that. Okay, but I'll update this so that it's on the Blackboard. So today I just wanted to go over just really quickly 2 things that will come in handy. You don't have to model this. You can just watch what I'm doing. Okay, Kaylee said it's offline. Okay, maybe she's gonna log in again. You don't have to. You don't have to do this part of the do this assignment. You can just watch. You don't have to follow. You don't have to build what I'm building. So I just built a 4-story building, and it has stairs and 4 walls. It's actually a 3-story building with a 4th as the roof. But I've been talking about diagrams, and I've been wanting you to sort of create diagrams of what your projects are. And if anyone's heard of Bjarke Ingels before, Bjarke Ingels Group, big, they do a really, really good job of explaining their projects. I feel like their projects are very simple. but they achieve simplicity, which is really difficult to do, but their diagrams are very clear. And this is their website. And these are all the projects and the years that they've done it. But if I choose, let me find one that I know has some good. Let's say we do. Well, most of the projects have a diagram. So I don't know if you've seen this project on Art Daily. It's like a waste treatment factory that's also ski has a ski slope on top. Just see if I can get through these diagrams. So they usually do these line drawings that are very simple. So there you see, I guess it's talking about the program and like what a traditional building shape would be for that type of program. And let's see this project. This is very heavy. So they start to draw, simple step-by-step things of what they're doing to the project. So I think we missed the first slide. I think I didn't want to show it, kind of crashed. But it's talking about wrapping and applying a ski slope to the top of this building, circulation, the three different types of ski paths, um, circulation, that it's a park and how it's going to affect the context, and they have the rendering. But they're very straightforward and very easy to understand. Let me find another one that's sort of that I remember that I thought was interesting. Let's see this one. So here's a diagram of a building, and they want to make it important, so they draw these, or they want to show how this building is special, so they draw these lines to show like it's look at me, and then they start talking about circulation and how they rotate it and split it apart, and different meanings for why it's done that way. This is a very simple diagram showing how their form comes about. That one is really straightforward. Let me find another one. They used to do it a lot with their older projects. So I think this is called VW House or VM Houses. So very simple diagram, straightforward, showing two bars in circulation, inflection points, and this creates views out to different views out for more people. And then they have some images of the building. Okay, so those are the diagrams I did for that one. Again, if you want to look through some of their website's kind of heavy, so it's kind of taking a long time to go through. But if you want to look through their website, type in Garrick Ingalls Group. And if you've never heard of his TED Talk, it's really good. He's a really good speaker. Okay, let's get back to our project. So let's say you have your massing. I know your massing is a container, but I'm just giving you this example. And I've also asked you to do diagrams with your initial massing. So let's say I do go to massing and site, in place mass. And it may mean that you have to do something like this. Okay, that's one. I don't know. And let's say your form was, began to evolve. Let me move this over here, and I'll do another one. Whatever, something like that. So let's say these were your massing diagrams, and you had these on a sheet. I would start to talk about why these elements are shaped this way. So maybe the first one you draw, and you have arrows, or you have dimensions showing constraints of project. Maybe it's like the shape of the container, and you say maximum interior space, and then you have arrows showing that it's rotating 45 degrees. Maybe for views out, or to block the sun from coming in, or whatever reason you have for rotating this. And then maybe you have arrows pointing up and pushing down, explaining how, I don't know, maybe this points to, maybe this faces something important, or maybe you want more natural daylight to come in. But you do these simple diagrams to create that drawing, and then at the end you would have your finished building if it looked like that. So let's put this on a sheet. I'm just using this one here, and I'm going to copy my 3D view in. I'll change the scale. Actually, I want to find my building. And let's say I give this no title, so it doesn't have anything. And then I'm going to duplicate my 3D view, because I want my second one to have my building in it. Go to my sheet. Maybe this one will have. Okay, I'll hide these things. Maybe I'll make this bigger. Your sheet would be composed nicely. So let's say we have some massing diagrams. When you are in a sheet view, you can go to the Annotate tab, and you can start drawing lines. You can start drawing lines that are sort of, just using the Annotate tool, you can start drawing things that to start to describe different elements. So like in this case, maybe I'll do something like this. And maybe I don't know. That's very simplistic. And of course, you can create new lines, right? So if we go to Manage, Additional Settings, Line Styles, create a new one. We'll say like WT for weight. We'll call it WT8. And we'll give this an 8. So now if I draw a line, and it's, you know, it's in proportion, that should be in proportion to what your drawing is. But you can, you know, and you can make these different colors. So I can make another one. Annotate, sorry, view, actually, manage, additional settings, line styles, new, I'll call it WT8 or WT7 red. So I'll make this 7, line weight, and I'll make this red. And I can make this a red line. Now you can do these things in InDesign as well to create lines, and but you know, if it's simple and you're going to keep it in, if you lose one step, in other words, if you create the drawing and then export it into InDesign and then draw there, and then you realize that something was wrong, so you have to go back to Revit and do it again. And if you could like cut out one step, it would make your life so much easier. So those are drawing some lines, and of course these can be hatched by the type of lines. I mean, these can be, they don't have to be solid, they can be dashed or whatever other default is set there. Another thing that I want to show you is that a lot of times in those drawings that we saw earlier, the building has sort of a thicker line weight, and you can do that. The perimeter has a thicker line weight because it sort of makes it kind of pop. And you can do that in 2 ways. So you can either, you know, draw thick lines over. I'm not in the view. I'm in the sheet view. I'm not in the view right now because, as you know, you can't draw a line like an annotated line in a 3D view. But so what I'm doing is basically just tracing over it. And this is a very simple form, but you can see that I traced my object and it makes it pop away a lot more. Another thing that you can do is to double click in your view, and you can use this tool, which we haven't used before. It's under the Modify tab that you see there, Modify, and it's a little 3 lines with a little blue arrow. It's called Line Work, LW. If you click on that, okay, that is selected, and then choose a line style. So let's say I choose WT7 red. So I have that clicked, I choose a line style. I can sort of click on lines and it'll change their line weight. So I'm clicking on edges and it's changing their line weight. And you see what happens here, since this is a wall, you see how the wall ends there and the wall is sort of, the other one is there. You get these kind of edges where You can't really select this line anymore. But you get this edge, and then you get this little blue point, and then you can stretch that blue point. You should be able to stretch that blue point. Okay, it didn't let me do it. Let's try it again. Okay, WT red. This all here. What I want to do is hover over that red line. Oh, it's not letting me draw it that way. It's letting me make it smaller, but it doesn't let me go past this line. So I just have to click on that edge. So forth. And if you want to get it back to what it was originally, you have to what you have to do is click on the original line and click on that line again. So there's not like a reset tool to get it back to normal. Another cool thing that you could do is, let's say you have like, I don't know, let's say the slab accidentally sticks out somewhat like this. If you use that WT tool, that line work tool, you can go and select invisible lines, and then you can click on lines. Let's say you have a mistake, and you can hide lines that are sort of problematic. In this case, I'm going to hide this one, and it's going to hide all of this over here. So I'm just going to tell it, I only want you to hide like so. So there's my slab, but I'm actually hiding the line work by using this line work tool. Pretty cool, huh? Crickets. Just kidding. So those are some tools that you can use, and again, we can do that here and this line work tool. Select the thick line weight, and we can, select the INTD. And we can start to outline our building, different components, and it really gives it a graphical pop quality that is really nice, that has line weight. A lot of times we hear complaints about drawings not having line weights, but this would be one way to do that. Okay, another thing I want to show you is how to create a color field. I forgot what it was called in Revit and AutoCAD. I think it's a hatch pattern. But let's say I want to cut a section to this building. Okay, use the section tool. Start, end. All right. Go to section. So there we have our section. I'm going to drag this onto my sheet. Oops. There's my sheet. So of course we know we go to VV and we select all, and we go to the cut patterns. We can crochet everything. So that, and we can, of course, if we select all, we can give it a different color or whatever we want. Make this yellow. Right? But let's say you want to diagram different areas with a different color. So what I'm going to show you now is called the filled region. Let's say we make this, we just put a filter, not a filter, a layer of color over this so that this becomes a certain color. So first, you have to be in a 2D view. Let me draw this so you remember. Filled region only works in a 2D view. So you can't do a filled region in a 3D view, just so that you remember when you're doing it, only 2D. So plans, sections, elevations. So now we'll go to the annotate tool and we'll select filled region, select this region tool here, select filled region, and we're going to create our own. So we can just select edit type, duplicate, and we'll say, I like to name it like this, color red. And I'm going to choose the color red. And as my fill pattern, this is like creating a pattern for anything that you've created before. I'm going to select solid. Okay. And my background, I'm going to select transparent. So then I'm going to draw a red rectangle. And I'll hit finish. And now I have a red area that actually, if you hover over it, you can modify its shape like this. And that's the red filled region. So let's make like a couple more, yellow, blue. We don't need shadows. But let's create a couple more. Let's do it the same way. So we can go to annotate, filled region. Oops, edit, duplicate. We'll call it color yellow. Okay, same thing, transparent. In this case, we don't have anything in that room, but if we had like a furniture piece in there, there's a furniture piece. Sheet, come on. So we can start highlighting, and maybe half of the room is dedicated to one program. And then another one is dedicated to another program. So you can start doing diagrams of this is this region, that's that region. And these can be any shape. It's just the shape that you're going to draw. It can have an opening. And you can modify these after the fact. So you're just creating a polygon shape. That can be pretty useful. And we can do, like a solid one. This is what I was, like let's say your ceiling, let's say we have ceilings in here. What is our floor? 10 feet. Let's say our ceiling in this building, sketch ceiling. Okay, I have it on level 1. We'll replace it on level 2 as well. Go to my sheet. So we have our ceilings in there, and that's just empty space. And in the type of sections that you guys are drawing, I don't want to see that. Well, I don't know if your container project is going to have a plenum space like that, but you can make a black filled region, and you can just fill that in so that it looks post-shade, right? So annotate, filled region. There's already a solid black one as a default. And another cool thing is that you can draw multiple shapes within the same filled region. So it doesn't have to be, So you see I have one here and one there. So now this is crocheted. Here's my filled region. And now we're just drawing the space as it would be experienced, right? The ceiling would be right there. And let's say I wanted to do it to the ground plane. To make it look like this building is grounded. And there we go. So now we have a pochette drawing. We can turn on shadows if we wanted to. Just make sure that the lighting works with your scene. Everything's in shadow, so I don't think I would put. But that's a very fast way of diagramming. Instead of doing it in Photoshop or Illustrator afterwards, you can just create these filled regions. And start. The only thing that happens is, and a lot of people don't like using filled regions, is because if your building changes shape, you have to go in and move all, you have to move your filled region. So if our floor to floor gets bigger, let's say our level 3 and level 4 move up a foot, you just have to be cognizant of what you made as a filled region and adjust it. Now, if you're drawing floor plans and you're trying to distinguish different areas, you could use a filled region like this, right? This is, you make this red, blue, and then like this is yellow. Right, you can start to diagram it that way. But again, I'd be careful because if this moves, you have to modify this. And so I would, and for future projects, I wouldn't put a color blocking with filled regions. I would just make the floor, like how we did before with the thin floors, that you make a floor that's like 2.25 inches and it's hovering. And I would make that, because sometimes these floors stick to the walls, like you see there, the floor stuck to the wall when I moved it. And it's more permanent. And also if the building moves, if the building moves, the floor would come with it, and the filled region really doesn't do anything. One last thing that I'll show you with filled region is that when you draw a filled region, it calculates the area. So you see it says area there of this rectangle. You can modify it live, but like I showed you before, you can make schedules out of floors, and so you wouldn't have to click on every filled region to find out the area and then tabulate it. If you make it smart, you can just make a schedule with the floors, and you don't have to calculate anything because the math will already be done for you. Okay, one last thing. Let's go back to the sheets. So like I said before, you can't draw a filled region in 3D. So I'm in my 3D view. I've activated this view, and you see that filled region. If I go to annotate, it's grayed out. It won't let me select it. So a trick that you can do is to create a drafting view, which is something we haven't done, but drafting views are typically views that we create that are just annotated lines. They're detail lines. So, if we start drawing in our floor plan, or let's say we're drawing a section and we want to draw a detail, like, I don't know, the way something meets the floor, drawing like a detail section of something, a cabinet or whatever. this is drawing it in the 3D world, and we don't really need this information, and you know, it's kind of a too much information for what we need. So a drafting view, we go to View, Drafting View, and you can choose a scale. It's fine right now. And you see that it appears here in your project browser. And the drafting view is where you would create, like, you know, if you're drawing, again, the cabinet, millwork, here's a toe kick. This is at a scale, but you could start to draw how this thing's going to be put together. Again, this is out of scale. But let's say this is a door, and then here's another, here's a shelf. And then we can start to annotate this. You know, this is that, or whatever. So that's what you would use a field region for. I mean, a drafting view for. But what you can also do is drag this onto your sheet. So let's go back to our sheet view. Drag a drafting view on here. And I'm going to give this no viewport. And then you can draw a filled region in this drafting view. And this is on top of that view. I'll show you in a second a little bit better. Let's say I want to diagram this stair in a 3D diagram. Okay. Can't be all the way transparent. And here, I can make this go like this. Just modify the building, but you can start to diagram. You could even keep drawing these lines just to show like where the edge of the building is. So you want to keep it. So what's occurring here is that I have a drafting view that I dragged in is layered on top of my building. And in order to get it transparent, I had to select that filled region and override it. And I overwrote it this much, 40% or something, so that you could see through it. And that way I can draw a filled region if I needed to in 3D. But if not, then, you know, in 2D it would work. I could also come in here draw a red line on this one. Or maybe I just want to highlight. Let me edit this one so that I'll just create a new fields region. Maybe I want to highlight like the top of this building, just one face. And I'll override it so that you can see the line work coming through it. And so then I can say, you know, I can highlight different faces or different sides or do whatever. But this, again, this is saving you one step. If you set up your sheet, you know, you could do it several ways where it just depends. And as you get older, you'll become more efficient for sure. But you could be in Revit, right? And you could export individual views. And then Photoshop, and that's where you do your color and your arrows and whatever. That's one way. Another way is that you start in Revit. You lay everything out in Revit. So you lay out a sheet, and then you take it to Photoshop or InDesign or Illustrator. And you do, again, the colors for everything in those softwares. And then another option would be just to do Revit all the way through. So you do your modeling, of course. You lay everything out in Revit and do your line work and colors in Revit, and then that's it. And so you can avoid all of these steps of, let's say you get to this stage, if you're doing type 1, I mean, if you're doing this method, you get to this stage and you realize that, excuse me, that some line is wrong, and then you have to try to fix it in Photoshop, but then it's bigger than you needed to, it's bigger than you realized, then you have to go back into Revit, put it into InDesign and then Photoshop, or I guess these could be, oh, this is individual views. It's just a lot of steps that you have to track, and if you have to keep correcting stuff, it'd be easier just to have it in one, which you undoubtedly will probably have to go back at some point, because it's kind of difficult to know what the end result is until you start laying it out. So those are a few tricks, graphic things that I'd like for you to use on your final assignment to show how your form is evolving and what colors come from what, and I mean what areas, you know, relate to what, and I think you can come out with some good drawings. And this diagram that I did earlier, you know, I'm saying that you can do everything in Revit, but obviously if you wanted to go through InDesign, that's fine as well. I'm just showing you that you probably could do it all. I'm still not happy with the color selection in Revit. I mean, you know, you can choose any color that you want, but you can make any color. But I still think that the color works best in InDesign, or you can be more precise, or I don't know. There's just something that you can control a little bit better in InDesign. So that's it for today. I'll see you Thursday. I'll update the syllabus. I mean the brief. If you guys have any questions, if not, you can log off, and I'll see you on Thursday.